Welcome to Cooking Consciousness. I am Kinneret, and here we blend the art of science of living with insights of the Show Me Tao Way method. This podcast steers together wisdom from the various traditions, including Adlerian theory and Anchia's practices, to explore the deepest layers of our consciousness. Join me as we uncover the ingredients of a mindful life, blending Anchia's wisdom with a modern insight. So let's cook up some consciousness together. Let's begin. Welcome to Cooking Conscious. Today I am talking from Dominican Republic. As you can see, the background behind me is a tropical background and not a snowy background like in Toronto. Normally in December, in holiday break, we love to come here in Cabarete. Eden and Aitan, my partner and my son, love to surf. And as you can see, me myself love to play. And it was a great opportunity for me to bring and grab the microphone and to grab the headphones and my computer and to take a break from everything and to record the second chapter of the podcast. It's also an opportunity for me to tell and share that I'm working on a retreat here in Cabarete. I will provide more details later on in the next chapters. But that's the most important information that I can provide at the moment. And thank you so much for the feedback that I received from the first chapter. All the listeners that gave me that feedback was very impactful. And I understand from all of you that you were very curious to know more about the method itself. Like, how does it work? What does it do? Like, how can we play the Show Me Tao Way game? So I think the best way to do it is just to do it. And for that, I decided just to lead you through the process. And I'm going to share, every time the steps of the game. And I will give some background. So you will be able, also background of stories or background from my life. So you will be able to make realization to the exercises, because each step of the game is very, very deep. And the mind sometimes, when we progress, makes some blocks when it doesn't want to participate or doesn't make sense, or, give some kind of like excuses not to move on. So it's important for me not just to give you the exercise and that's it. I want to lead you through that process with my own stories. So you will identify yourself or create some kind of like observation that you will understand better how to dive into the process itself. So this chapter is chapter number 2. It talks about this step number 1. Gabriela, one of the practitioners, did a great job, and she recorded herself on each step, and her English is way higher, and better than mine. And she did a great, great job. So why not just to attach it? So that will be on each time that I'm leading the chapter. Each time I'm leading a step, I will attach Gabriela's video as a second edition on each chapter. So each one of you, each of the listeners that willing to dive can do it by himself. So I will attach all the information here on each chapter, and you definitely can dive in that process with yourself. So let's begin. The world is in tantrum. I call it the world is in renovation. God decided to renovate the world and create a lot of chaos. And, you know, show me it's all about the paradox of life. Show me it's all about dualities. Once you come into this world, we are already splitted. We already have dualities, and we are dealing with dualities all the time. All the time. We have body, and then we have soul. We were talking about that last time. You know, inside us we have the feminine side, we have the male side. If you can look at nature, you can see that the duality is all the time there. We have the winter and we have the other side around. We have the summer, we have fall, we have spring, we have black, we have white. We have all, the extreme sides of life. So, and in Chinese medicine, they are talking about the yin and the yang, and a yin and the yang. It's a shape that takes all those paradoxes and brings it into some kind of like a concept that all the philosophy and everything is based on that shape, So that's actually, if we think about that, that's already the foundation of Show Me Tao Wei. Our mind is kind of tricky because we think that we live in abundance and we are progress and we have everything, but it's still stuck in the survival mode. It still has this concept. We need to climb on a ladder, that on this ladder, we have some kind of like statuses, labels. And when we think that way, our starting point is all the time climbing on that ladder, right? Is to be above somebody. And all the time someone will be above us and someone else will be below us. And think about it in variety of concepts. We can think about it in some kind of a global concept. And we can take some kind of like statuses, like if we think about homeless, in that ladder, the homeless will be down because this person is depend on the society, versus on top of that ladder will be, I don't know, the prime minister. But that specific concept, that concept is the hierarchy. And in all of us, the mind is still thinking on that kind of concept. Think about the world right now. Money is kind of a religious. Like if you have more money, that means that you are above. And if you have less, that means that you are below. So that specific language keeps us in the survival mode. Why? Because the starting point of that way of thinking brings up to the surface a lot of competition, jealousy, judgment. Why? Because only when we judge, our mind thinks that when we judge, we push someone else down in this ladder, right? And when we compete and we feel that we are better than someone else, we push someone else in that ladder. And when we have more money, we push someone else in that ladder. So they will be below us. What it brings, it's an energy of a lot of judgment, a lot of guilt and blame and shame and a lot of fear. Because when we have fear, we are letting fear conducting us. So when we have all those bucket of energy, when I say energy, it's when we feel emotions, we radiate them into this world. And when we create more and more of that, that means that right now it's not only me thinking that way, it's a collective mind. And when the collective mind thinks that way, that's where the war are starting. So if we think about World War II versus what is happening at the moment, unfortunately, we are accumulated in the past 100 years, more or less than 100 years, we accumulated a lot of energy of the collective mind that creates a lot of survival mode, create a lot of war. Here is the hope. There is a hope. In Show Me process, it's a very deep process. So in Show Me, what I'm waiting when I'm working one-on-one, I'm waiting in this process in Show Me, I'm waiting until the person, and I'm preparing, my clients every time. I'm waiting to the breakdowns. I'm waiting to see where the history is coming back. And when their history, their memory, the trigger of the past, when that's coming up into the surface because we are practicing to bring it up, when we starting to see the same energy, the same kind of like the patterns that up until now was triggering them, and they can see and observation. It's a very strong tool in Show Me. Observe it without judging it. That's where the breakthroughs are starting. That's where we are starting to see that the history is starting to change. Because imagine it as if you are all the time practicing to be in balance, like walking on a rope, okay? And you're practicing to maintain a vessel of balance. Walking on a rope, you need to be every day like a circus, every day in a different posture, so the balance will be kept. So, and now, not only that you are practicing to be in balance, something that was triggering, let's pretend that somebody from, in the circus, like throwing at you at the moment balls. And those balls are kinds of like rebounds from your history. But because you're starting to be strong and you're holding the value of balance very, very high, you are not allowing this trigger to pull you down. And if you fall off the rope, you are not judging yourself as before and beating yourself up. You are climbing again and you're starting to walk because you know that the most important part here, it's your intention to keep yourself in balance and not let the emotion pull you towards the history. So I'm coming back right now to the world, our small world that right now is in pain. And yes, right now, the universe is starting to, the bucket is full. The vessel is full of the world. The collective mind right now is full of control and survival mode and judgment and blame and guilt and shame and fear. And if you ask me, and we will dive into that later on in this podcast, it's all about changing the dimension of the yin and the yang, which is the male and the female. And I'll dive into that later. Most of the women in the world still are working and believing and acting and living from the codes of the patriarchal, and they have a lot of masculine energy inside them. So because we needed that, it's part of the steps towards creating a new dimension, a new balance, a new world. The mind was triggered to be strong like men because we needed to talk the same language as them. So the control and the hierarchy and the money, and we as women, we needed that. And slowly, the feminine energy that is very delicate, very fragile, very vulnerable, got lost in this world. And the paradigm, the limiting belief, all the structure of the word vulnerability got distorted so hard. So vulnerability was equal weakness, was losing the mind, equal something that I put in the Pandora box and I don't want to talk about it. And it created a lot of pain. So, yes, the feminine energy is very, very wise, very strong. It's the yin energy in Chinese philosophy. The hope is the feminine energy. This is the hope. Although it's still not regulated and it's still trying to manifest in various ways, like the various feminist movements, such as the Me Too wave and those before it. But they emerged from a place of a very masculine energies and from the discourse of the survival mode, which represents the hierarchy, discourse above and below, ruler and ruled, operating from the survival power that the world is currently trying to heal. Trying to heal from and move to a new stage of equality between these forces. To create a healthy dance between them, the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the female and the male. We are in labor pains and there is order in this pain. We just need to understand how to connect the new pieces of the puzzle in order to live from a true life axis, not from an artificial survival layer that no longer serves us as humans. As I said, it's all about duality, it's all about paradox. And in paradox, when we take the two sides that are very far from each other. The other side of vulnerability is to be in the highest place of strength. And only when you are in your highest power, highest place of strength, you can express vulnerability from a healthy place. And for that, right now at the moment, those two sides are very far from each other, very far. Which means that we're like, take, for example, a rope, and imagine a person, and inside him there is the yin and the yang. So imagine as if like he's holding the rope, and on one hand there is the yin, and on the other hand there is the yang, the feminine and the masculine energy, and they're pulling, and they are playing a tug of war. And they are actually playing, and they're pulling and creating a lot of tension. This is actually this is the war. This is the survival mode. This is the fight, flight, freeze. We are holding the tight. We are holding the rope very tight. But we can do it in a different way. We definitely can do it in a different way. And in my opinion, this is a wake-up call. Right now, at the moment, the history came back to the world. The history came back. So each one of us as human being will take responsibility and understand how to talk about vulnerability, how to bring up the yin energy, the feminine energy, not from a place of control, not from a place of this ladder of above, below. No. We are moving towards a new language. No, it's not English, it's not Hebrew, it's not Arabic, it's not Spanish. We are moving towards a new language of humanity. And this language is really to learn and teach people that we are all equal. All. The homeless, the teacher, the child, the manager, the prime minister. We are all in the same scale. And you as a human being, as a soul, if you really want to learn how to work with all the orchestra, you need to be an observer. An observer. And all those people around you are kind of like reflection of who you really are. And to learn how to work with that energy that is surrounding you, because it's all starting from within. It all starts from within. And for that, we need to encounter history. We need to bring up the pain. So we will be able, instead of getting into the trigger of the war, the fight, flight, we, as much as we can, need to maintain right now a vessel that works from a totally different dimension. First of all, we are cleaning a lot of judgment here. A lot of judgment. Judgment is a poisoning energy. As I said, like we need all the emotions. A person, a healthy human being needs to go through all the level of emotions. But once we know how we can manage, how we can work with those energies, those emotions, and we are not getting attached to that emotion. It's very different when you say, I'm a mad person, I'm a very angry person, versus I can see how the anger is conducting me, but I am working on that and I'm taking responsibility on that. So you as an observer already starting to accept, to create compassion, to work with your wisdom, this feminine energy, this vulnerability versus reject. When you reject someone, that means that you reject something in you that you don't want to deal with and take responsibility. And responsibility, if we take that like this word, responsibility, it's the ability to respond. It's the ability to respond to everything that is encountering into your life. And instead of like pushing and get triggered very quickly, you are observing and you're starting to understand that this is part in you, that the masculine energy at the moment is trying to get into this like control. So yeah, we're working with yin and yang energy, and I'm saying masculine energy in a negative way, but I have to tell you something. Masculine energy is important, is a beautiful energy of light. The yin energy is the vessel, is actually the bowl, and the yang energy is the light. And if we don't know how to maintain the right vessel, when the light comes in, the ball gets broken. And when it gets broken, it creates war. So we need both energies. And we need to create a totally different game. Instead of like tug of a war, we need to take this rope, cut, the two sides of the rope, and create some kind of like a totally new observation, that a bird eye view observation, that we are looking at everything from above. We are the observer. And when we are the observer, we can change the game. We are starting to talk with the world, with the universe, from a totally, totally different place. Yes. So the first step of the game will teach you what is your two sides, the yin and the yang. I love to call it the inner child and the higher self. The inner child, in my opinion, is the yin energy, because when we were young, we encountered a lot of kind of like challenges. And when we didn't get enough tools to deal with them and process them right, we pull them down into the Pandora box. And it seems like lots of layers of this child are still there, are not processed. And the higher self is when we are starting to connect the two sides, we can say that it's the wise, the voice. But at the moment, it's part of a layer of, think about an onion. So we have layers, and we are playing, in this world through some kind of like costumes, layers, because we need to play a game of that, not necessarily authentic with who we really are. It's kind of codes of the society. So the higher self is, the father, the parent. And the inner child is this yin energy that wants to come up and play from a place of equality. So at the beginning of this game, most of the people are not balanced. The inner child either is very, very high, because the tantrums, the energy that is like trying to come from the Pandora box is like not regulated, and it's like conducting us, and the parent is very angry and frustrated because right now, apparently now he could control, but something came up. So the inner child decides is very, very high. One side is very high and the other side is very low. It can change. Later on in this process, you will see that the process itself will lead you to start to work with those two sides and to understand how to understand them first and then to balance them. So that's basically the first step. The first step, based on the Adlerian theory, we took the model of Adler called ABC. In Hebrew, a lot of people called it Efrat, Model Efrat. And it's very common in Israel. That's the reason I'm saying it. And we took that model and we deepen in that model into, a new observation. So you will be able to see, your yin, your yang, and your IDs when you're talking from, the half empty side, the half full side. It will be all the time working with the duality, the paradox, and how we can create it as some kind of a dance between the tension of those two energies, the dualities. You can use the inner child, higher self, you can use yin yang, you can use feminine, masculine, you can use it as many other observations that are coming up to you. But I love to call it inner child, higher self because that's how I worked with my inner child and how I really processed a lot of memories that weren't processed in the past and moved towards a totally different dimension. And you're more than welcome right now to get into the chapter, get into the second section, which is the process itself. Enjoy it. And if you have questions, I'm here. You can write me an email. I will be more than happy to answer and to talk further about that process. Take care. Bye for now.